Recently I bought a watch that is pretty much universally praised. In fact, despite watching numerous reviews, I've barely ever seen anyone find a fault with it. That's a bit like a red rag to a bull for me. And while I'm not going to go out of my way to look for faults, if I find them, I'm going to let you know. If you haven't guessed, the watch in question is a Militado ML05. Basically, it's an homage to the Hamilton Khaki field watch, and by all accounts, it's a pretty good one. And as always, after the review, I'll pick a few alternatives in case this one doesn't do it for you. The ML05 comes in this tin. Some people seem to get it in a box, but I got a tin. Either way, I couldn't care less. It's just another thing taking up space. I'm here for the watch, not the case. When I start spending time reviewing watch boxes, you know this channel is on its last legs. The Militado ML05 might just have the best budget spec since Dame Edna Everage. I paid £28 for this watch. You can't get a lot for £28 these days. To put it in terms you'll understand, that's just over 3 large Big Mac meals, or about 4.5 pints of beer. As I call it in both cases, lunch. We've got a stainless steel case housing a VH31 quartz movement. You get a sapphire crystal, and it has a screw-down case back and a screw-down crown. This gives it 100 metres of water resistance, which I like to see on my field watches. It's very useful for those times when my imaginary military unit has to do an imaginary subaquatic mission. But seriously, I do like 100 metres of water resistance on my watches, so when I'm on my annual holiday standing in 1.5 metres of pool water, it will not let me down. It measures 37mm and it's 11mm thick. The sapphire crystal's got a slight dome to it, which is adding to that overall thickness. We've got 20mm lugs, which is great for those that like to swap their straps. I can't give Militado any points for originality here though. That being said, this is a watch that is trying to emulate a military spec design from World War II. So I really don't know if anyone can truly lay claim to the original design here. The thing that struck me with this watch is that it's not a subtle design. Everything's quite big. This is great for legibility, but if you want a design that's a little understated, this isn't it. It's sort of a no thrills meets practical design. Personally, I prefer the dial on my Redune RA05, but I'm probably on my own with that one. The case is nicely blasted. I'd love to be able to say bead or sandblasted, but my knowledge of blasting is a little weak if I'm honest. Either way, it's nicely done, and I've been critical of polished field watches in the past, so it's nice to review one with a blasted case. The other thing that jumped out at me when I first opened this watch is that it feels very, very solid. This is definitely a watch that I don't worry about bashing around. Honestly, it just feels much tougher than anything else I've held at this price point. I took this watch out kayaking less than an hour after it had arrived. I was super confident of its durability and its water resistance, and it held up great. I was in the water for hours, and it didn't have an issue at all. It comes on a pretty decent NATO strap. It's the best quality NATO strap I've seen from an AliExpress brand, and it's better than some of the straps I bought separately too. And now we get to something that I don't like about the Militado ML05. It just doesn't fit that well. I really don't know what it is that causes the issue, but it feels bigger than it actually is. It seems like it's too long for my wrist, and it kind of just sits on top of it, which sounds strange, but I'm going to try and show you with the videos how that sort of manifests itself. I've never owned a Hamilton Khaki, and it might be exactly the same as that watch, but if I compare it to other field watches that I own, it just feels a bit weird. Now this could be just me. I've watched many reviews of this one, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything about the way it fits. But I've got to call it as I find it. My wrist is 6.75 inches to give you a little context. Possibly it's down to the lug-to-lug length, which is 47.5mm. If I compare that to a couple of watches that I really like the fit of, it's definitely longer. There are many issues that I can take when it comes to watches, but this one has probably the worst issue. If it doesn't fit, that's kind of the end of it for me. And it's a real shame because I like the design and I love the spec. This could easily be a watch that gets a ton of wrist time for me if it only fit me a little bit better. Let's talk about the Lume. Like many budget watches, when the Lume is charged, it looks great. Also, like many budget watches, the Lume doesn't last that long. When someone finally invents a Lume that glows brightly for hours on small things like watch hands and markers, people are going to go crazy for it. The Lume does a job, but I've seen better on budget watches. Okay, let's talk about some alternate options that come in at a similar price. And I'm going to start with the Redune RA05. It is in no way as well spec'd as a Militado. You're only getting mineral crystal and you're only getting 50 metres of water resistance, but it has nailed the looks. And that domed crystal is simply divine. It's a little smaller than the Militado at 36mm, so it's probably suited to those with smaller wrists, and it's a touch more expensive too, but I love this watch. Next up is the Loris Lume Bright. We've got a stainless steel case here, 100 meters of water resistance, mineral crystal, and a Seiko movement inside. It's got that fully loomed dial that pretty much obliterates any other watch loom that I've encountered in any budget watch, and it's a little banger. And last up, I'll go with the Bernie T2526M. It's got a titanium case, VH31 movement again with a sweeping second hand. It's got mineral crystal and 50 meters of water resistance. It's a similar size to the Loris and the Redune, coming in at 37mm. For those that know their watches, you'll recognise this one as pretty much a direct copy of a Seiko SNK 809. That said, it is still a very good watch. So that's it. The Militado ML05 is a great watch. It is so well spec'd and it'll take an absolute beating, but it just doesn't fit me that well, and it is so annoying. I'm going to stick with it for now. Maybe over time I'll learn to deal with it and I'll put up with the fit. Only time will tell.